Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to Tiny Bunny. I don't know what to say about this final episode. I did not finish it. I will finish it later on this week. I am busy with another round of auditions, and afterwards, I'll just be chilling, play games, and enjoying the rest of my holiday break. But yeah, this episode was Yeah. So far, the episode is. I made sure to save in some parts because I do want to play, like, see what those outcomes could be. But then I made a series of right choices, and I also did a recap added on to like a small little portion, and then would just go right back into it. But the whole time I was playing, I was like, "What the fuck is going on? What is happening?" You know. But yeah. Do not spoil it for me in the comments. I would be totally upset if you do. Do not spoil this. This is like one of those things, like, don't spoil it for me. Fuck, I don't know how to feel right now. But yeah. Please hit that like and subscribe button for more content, and I will see you in the next half of this part, which is not going to be in this episode. I need to get some sleep, but take care and God bless. Ciao. Behind that obstacle lay a clearing. There stood an ice castle, glistening with silver.
О, это все взаправду?
Щипнуть тебя.
Не надо ее щипать.
We stared at the sparkling miracle. Its towers and walls were made out of snow and icy marble. I heard a calming sound of ringing little bells. There was also the smell of chocolate and burnt sugar in the air.
Милости прошу к нашему шалашу.
She didn't have to invite us twice. We entered the castle, spinning around and squinting from the blinding sparkles. Grandpa Frost sat atop a shiny throne. Puffy Pom-Pom swung atop the two peaks of his hat. A snow-white beard covered his kind smile. He looked just like I imagined him back in the day when I still believed in Mom's fairy tales. Tall, strong, and hairy, radiating frost and warmth at the same time. And his voice, low and syrupy, enveloped me like the smoke of a festive bonfire.
Антон и Ольга! Ох, и намучились же вы, ребятки, пока сюда добирались.
Что ты, дедушка? Мы быстро дошли.
My sister spoke with the castle's master like she never spoke with adults, in a lively, carefree manner, as if they were the same age.
Знаю, все знаю. Мне мои друзья докладывают. Кто был покладистым весь год, того подарок утром ждет. А кто ленился и грустил, пускай он дедушку простит. Лентяем и грустяем конфет не запасаем.
А я не ленилась.
И о том знаю.
He gave us a long, evaluating look. His real face was hidden under the Grandpa Frost mask. I was just standing there, unblinking, my gaze glued to the old man. I could accept children living in the forest and fantastical jumps toward the moon, but seeing Grandpa Frost in his frozen castle left me completely speechless.
Есть у меня для вас кое-что особенное.
A sack appeared in his giant hand. My nostrils got attacked by the aroma of cocoa, halva, and tangerines.
Спасибо, но мы уже ели конфеты.
Grandpa Frost pierced me with his eyes.
Разве то конфеты были? Так, одно название. Вот у меня конфеты волшебные, прямиком из Небыляндии привезенные.
Из Небыляндии?
Сразу бы вам их дал, заслужили. Но есть правила. Надобно вам 3 дедушкины загадки отгадать. Попробуйте.
I tried splitting my parched lips apart, but Oya was the first to reply.
Тогда слушайте первую. В нем живут машины и хранятся шины.
I looked around at the masked children. They stood without moving in the corners, but their shadows danced on the walls. I heard a low hum, and in my confusion, I thought it was the sound of their rumbling stomachs.
Гараж!
Верно. Теперь вторая загадка. Подключайся, Антон. Весь день ходит, как тень, посудой гремит, на всех шипит.
My eyebrows shot up in confusion.
Мама?
Oya raised her hand.
Можно я? Это кошка!
Верно. Хо-хо. Осталась последняя загадка, и подарки ваши. Запамятовал я, о чем же была эта загадка. А может, наши друзья-зверята нам подскажут?
Children in costumes surrounded us, laughing and stomping, only to start spinning in a crazed roundelay that somewhat reminded me of the dance under my window on that fateful night.
Дед Мороз сидит на троне, пряча в бороду снежок. Не томи нас слишком долго, развяжи скорей.
Мешок!
Убедили старика. Получайте.
He scattered a mountain of sweets from his scarlet sack, some of which I had never seen in commercials before. Bubblegum of all shapes and colors with tasty aromas and inserts sticking out. Lollipops the size of a fist and tangerines the size of Oya's head. And also Snickers, Mars, Bounty bars, and Kinder Surprise eggs that we haven't eaten for so long already.
Ой, спасибо!
I wiped away the tears of joy with my sleeve when my inner voice persuaded me to get rid of all doubts. This is exactly what I wanted for my sister and myself. The true Neverland, without bullying and taboos. We're finally going to be happy. Grandpa Frost straightened up as he left his throne and threw his hands in the air over the treats. Animals that stood to his sides also raised their paws. Their eyes sparkled brighter than precious gems. The wolf's maw was wet with saliva.
А будет пир на весь мир!
Animal kids rushed to devour the candy one by one, pushing each other and growling. Their faces were smeared with something dark. Oya grabbed the closest candy and tore off the wrapper. Oh no! No, nah. Alright, I don't remember what I did last time, so give me a moment. I gripped Oya's wrist so hard that she squeaked, either from pain or from surprise.
Не ешь.
Cautious whispers spread through the room. Ears twitched on the masks. Shadows slid from one place to another.
Что такое? Что случилось?
Ничего страшного. Просто Тоша верит в несуществующий диабет.
Расказни родителей. Разбудите меня, когда он перестанет валять дурака.
Grandpa Frost leaned into me. He smelled of caramel and just a tiny bit of dampness.
Давайте не будем портить праздник, друзья. Сегодня каждый должен веселиться. Ешьте и пляшите!
Oya tried to pull her hand away, but I kept it in my clutches. I looked at the sweets, then at the tall old man, and tried to focus on a barely discernible stench coming from him. The stench of rot and decay, masked with a sugary aroma, the foul smell of a beast. It felt like I was finally able to shrug off some strong delusion. Fear, exhaustion, and coldness returned to me.
Спасибо, но мы сыты. И мы пойдем, наверное. Мама с папой переживают уже.
I dragged my sister toward the exit, but Alyssa stood in our path. She had a china platter in her hands. For a brief moment, I imagined maggots crawling inside it, but as soon as my eyes darted toward the offering, I saw gummy worms instead of a vomit-inducing writhing ball of living ones.
Прошу, Антон. Мы же друзья, правда? Мы даже больше, чем друзья. Вспомни, что я обещала. Никто не причинит тебе зла, пока я рядом. Ни тебе, ни Оле. Так что съешь, пожалуйста, всего одну. Съешь, а?
Антон, пусти! Ну пусти! Теперь и ты все мне запрещаешь, прям как мама!
Oya convulsed hysterically, trying to free herself from my clutches.
Это неправильно. Все здесь какое-то неправильное.
Вот как? А ты не задумывался, что из неправильного тут только твое мировоззрение? Как ты думаешь, что делают те таблетки, которые ты глотаешь круглые сутки, Они искажают реальность, путают мысли, уводят тебя со снежной тропинки.
I looked at Alyssa with suspicion, searching for a comeback, but I couldn't find one. How does she know about the pills? I remembered Vova's bloody mitten and Simeon's severed finger inside a small plastic bag. All of that was just an illusion.
Кто вы?
А на кого мы похожи?
Like nightmares that ravaged my sick mind.
С нами вас никто больше не накажет, не запрет в комнате, не бросит в одиночестве. Отныне никто не заставит вас делать то, что вам не хочется.
Откуда вы знаете, чего нам не хочется?
The old man rubbed Wolfie, who was munching loudly behind the ear.
Я знаю. Мне шепчут ветра и тени, холодные звезды и безграничные небеса. Они говорят, что дети не хотят взрослеть, превращаться в тех, кто живет запретами, угрозами, наказаниями.
His voice grew louder and louder with every word.
Ожиданием старости и смерти. Дети живут мечтами. О, я отлично знаю детские мечты о счастливой и беззаботной жизни. Той, в которой есть чудеса и дикая свобода.
His voice rang like thunder. It made all hair on my head stand on end.
Все это будет вашим. Стоит только захотеть. Стоит только попросить.
And then he whispered,
Стоит только согласиться.
Согласиться.
Oya repeated after him like an echo, as if enchanted.
Да, моя дорогая. Вкусить это.
The old man pointed toward the fox girl.
Я прошу тебя, ради всех нас, ради меня, ради сестры. Зайчик, отведай хотя бы кусочек. И тогда ты все поймешь.
Stand by. I want to see what happens if you do accept. But that's why I have it here. Refuse! I felt like chilling winds blew from the cavities of her eyes, from the dark holes of other beasts, and the towering old man's too. The owl's face twitched nervously. The wolf's maw dripped with saliva. The bear shuffled his feet, any trace of sleepiness gone from his face. And from behind us towered the one who pretended to be Grandpa Frost all this time.
Я сказал, мы уходим.
I gripped my sister's hand even tighter. Candy slipped out of her fingers and smacked against the floor. Oya started looking around, frightened.
Я сказал, мы уходим.
Alyssa parroted me, and despite everything, I felt immense anger.
Ну какой же ты все-таки дурачок.
I heard the flute's melody, but now it reminded me of a cracking whip, or even agonized convulsions of a fish that was thrown out to the ice. Music dangled about, striking at my ears. And then the crystal castle was filled with cries of children that slowly turned into beastly howls, intermingled with the sounds of crunching bones and ripping skin. The china platters, filled to the brim with maggots, smashed into tiny pieces. Alyssa's orange fur coat ripped at the seams, letting out a cloud of foul-smelling fog. Her twisted face bared its teeth, and the stench attacked my nostrils again. The fox screamed, blood streaming down her cheeks like tears, making her fur sticky. Her bone-naked tail whipped against the walls with its vertebrae. I shielded my crying sister. Horror drilled into my stomach, rushed through my guts, and rose up to my throat. I felt the urge to tear off my glasses and lose sight. I wanted to squeeze my eyes out and go blind forever. I turned to face the owl, and my face contorted from disgust. Worms wriggled inside her masked features. Her rotten beak snapped like garden scissors. I staggered back and barely avoided bumping into the wolf. His face was stretching out. His bones crunched. Teeth poked out of his festering gums like shards of broken glass, and his swollen tongue kept on tirelessly licking them. At the edge of my vision, I saw the bear block our passage. Every inch of his body oozed scarlet ichor. Larva clogged his teary eyes. I pulled the shocked Alyssa close, looking for the exit in panic. My foot ended up in a pile of sweets, but those are no longer candy. Human remains blanketed the floor. Ribs with shreds of meat on them and torn out jaws. A tooth necklace and moss-covered pelvic bones. Tiny skulls and scalps swimming in a sea of blood. Horned monstrosity towering over me, clutching a bone flute in its long, clawed fingers. A giant goat that shed his kind old man form. Completely black, emanating hatred and malice, he scorched me with red-hot coals inside his eye cavities. His horns scraped against the ceiling. Ice cracked and thawed, dripping down, forming muddy pools of water, bearing metal walls that were hidden underneath it. I realized that we were doomed inside this cramped womb of a dungeon, surrounded by howling beasts. All I could do was hug my sister even tighter and watch how the circle around us shrank, how ugly paws reached out to us from behind the veil of a bloody fog.
Послушайся, я разорву их на части. Я вырву их глазные яблоки и трахну их в сочащиеся раны.
The growling wolf's maw snapped like a bear trap, splattering thick white foam towards us. But he was immediately pushed away by a rotting bear carcass.
Волки, мой черед веселился. Как же я утомился слушать их сраный гундёж. Я же бью, сорву кожу с этой грёбаной козявки прямо на глазах ее братца. Я заставлю его съесть собственную сестру, накормленную досыта ее потрохами. Пожалуйста, хозяин.
It felt like his face was about to tear apart, cracked like an eggshell, letting out something even more sinister, nasty, scary. Gnarly owl claws grabbed at the grinning bear, stopping him from getting close.
Лапы прочь от девчонки!
The cackling zoo formed a furball that started rolling in guts and thawed fat. They howled, fought with each other, tore out scrapes of fur and feathers, ready to rip each other apart like a pack of hungry dogs fighting for leftovers. A sudden squeal of the flute pulled them apart as if someone tugged at their leashes. The master of this pack charmed the monsters with his soul-rending music, turning them into unmoving, silent marionettes that faithfully waited his commands. The goat stopped nibbling on his shin bone flute. Its devilish melody that sounded like a chorus of children being run over by a steamroller went silent for one last time. A chunk of raw human flesh popped beside my shaking feet. Consumed by fear, I turned toward Oya. She lay by the wayside, covered in pink snow. Just like the Sleeping Beauty in that cartoon. She probably lost consciousness from this soul-rending spectacle. I wanted to wail, to go mad, to die quickly and painlessly, right there and now. But alas, I couldn't. I was still inside this torture chamber, choosing between a gruesome end inside the monster's stomachs and cannibalism. Woolen meat grinders kept on staring at me with their greedy, infinitely hungry eyes, ready to gnaw at my bones before eventually eating them if I dared refuse their master's offer. But if I was to agree, I'm sure I would lose my free will, just like them. I'll turn into a perpetually hungry monster that dances to the tune of a bloodthirsty madman. Now surely lead Oya and all those who I hold dear to their deaths. My lips trembled. A feeling of nausea turned my stomach inside out, but somehow I found the strength to scream.
Никогда и ни за что! Я человек!
Those words could be later used as my epitaph, but I knew that my remains were destined to never be found. My surroundings went dead silent.
Ешьте их! Пейте их! Рвите на части!
The horned shadow consumed us.
Сладкое мясо!
Alyssa rushed to greet the goat and stood between us. ridiculously tiny compared to the giant monster. Fuck, I haven't been this part for a long time, I'm sorry. Her tail dragged after her, leaving behind a scarlet trail. Fleas jumped around her back and the bones sticking out of it.
Подожди. Не спеши так. Зайчик нам еще пригодится. Зайчик нас покормит. Вкусненько. Для медведя и лисы. Зайчик кушать принеси.
Flames inside his eye socket stopped trembling. Still, dolls bared their teeth in anger.
Разве это зайчик? Разорвать и сожрать! Самозванец! Кожаный мешок с требухой! Заткнитесь, пустомели! Разве вы не чуете? Разве вы не помните? Когда он чуть не укусил луну на снежной поляне.
The cannibals went silent, swallowing saliva in disappointment. Alyssa, in the meantime, took a sharp turn and returned to the form of a cute child with a fox mask on that I met for the first time one January morning. She glided toward me, dissolving the horrors around us with the smell of tangerines, firecrackers, and magic. Her soft paws touched my cheeks, removed a sticky strand of hair from my forehead. Alyssa embraced me and whispered in a sweet voice.
Тоша, ты хочешь спастись?
I stayed silent, gritting my teeth. I was afraid to look away, afraid that this fleeting illusion could get shattered.
Мой милый, скажи, ты хочешь спасти свою сестру?
Tears sprayed from my eyes as I wept.
Да.
I continued to sniffle and shake, grabbing at the hem of the fox girl's long coat.
Скажи громче, чтобы все слышали.
Delirious from sorrow, I screamed, my face awash with tears.
Да!
My mouth was immediately filled with a metallic aftertaste of blood. The fox's black fingers kept pushing a chunk of human flesh deeper down my throat. I fell to my knees, coughing up blood, unable to vomit it out. Rotting carcasses of animals surrounded me once again.
Какое посмешище! Позволь, хозяин, я откушу от девчонки самую малость.
Boiling anger swallowed up my mind. Something foreign and primitive burst forth, pounced from inside me.
Только попробуй, и я вырву твой поганый язык и засуну глубоко в клаку, ты безмозглая курица!
The ominous owl jumped away in surprise, accompanied by the fox's cackling. My voice went out, and then I bit in half. Vomit poured out of my mouth along with part of the treat that I wasn't able to regurgitate.
Ты права, зайчик.
His finger poked me. I felt like a knife was lodged handle deep into my solar plexus. Holy shit. Holy shit.
Добудь к следующей ночи мясо, а иначе...
Alyssa silently stepped into the shadows, and the goat put his foul-smelling maw right into my face and roared.
Иначе расхерил всю твою семью.
He knocked his hoof against the floor, and I ran for my life, forgetting about everything else. I heard them scream at my back, "We'll eat you up alive!" Shards of ice fell on my shoulders, dead rosens frozen inside them. I managed to break free to the place where pines moved their branches and showered me with snow, like cooks sprinkling salt on porridge. The wind tore at my hair. I turned around and froze over. The garage was disappearing right in front of me, dissolving in layers, becoming dim and then transparent before a gust of wind finally swept away the phantom of black walls. Only then I realized that I let go of my sister a long time ago, and she was left behind in the monster's den. There was only a giant snow pile left in place of the castle. A girl's wrist poked out of it, like a cross would poke out of a burial mound. Terrified, I rushed over to the snow pile and started digging. Oya's pale face, along with one of her shoulders, appeared from under the white mass. Her bluish lips trembled. She's alive.
Я сейчас!
My throat went dry when I remembered that I shouted these same words to Katya before. I continued digging and prayed for her to hang on. At some point, I was able to see her stomach. Her voice was faint.
Ничего. Отнесу тебя домой, согрею, шоколадом напою. Ты только не засыпай, слышишь? Ты только...
My fingers came across something sticky and hot. I cleared out more snow. It turned red and mushy.
Что это? Что это там?
I gulped.
Почему ты не отвечаешь?
How could I tell her? Oya's body didn't exist below the stomach. Rings of guts fell out the wound. Oya tilted her head and stared at the horrifying scraps, then let out a deafening scream. Episode 5. Bunny. Tasty meals prepare. I threw off the blanket, gasping for air. It took all my focus to recognize the paintings on the walls and the window's wood-framed screen that was broadcasting the same old forest. Cold drops trickled down my chest. I trembled, thinking that it was saliva dripping from a maw left ajar over my head. But it was just sweat. It was all just a dream. I reflexively wiped myself with the blanket. How did I get home? When did I fall asleep? My thoughts stumbled, crashed into each other, limping on the crutches of my weak consciousness. The drawings I hung up now looked like flat, meaningless daub. Darkness crawled around my bedroom on its black belly. Decrepit walls around me grunted and creaked. The wind rammed the front of the house, intent on breaking in and tearing its inhabitants apart with its crooked claws. I sneaked a tentative glance out of the window. The sun was hidden behind a thick white veil. The blizzard whipped up its white flags into the sky, but it was not a sign of surrender. The field and the forest got lost in the haze. A fish-eyed lamppost at the side of a disappearing road was the last glimmer of light around. The day became night, an endless polar abomination that whispered and roared and circled around the house.
Мясо.
Meat echoed inside my skull. I slapped myself on the cheek, then rushed into the hallway to make sure Oya was okay, that my nightmare, my personal nightmare, hadn't hurt her. My sister was in bed, our parents tending to her. Oya's face had a grayish tint to it, and her lips were colored a scary shade of blue. I looked at her legs, wrapped in a blanket, expecting the cloth to turn scarlet. A brief moment of respite followed. Oya's legs were fine.
Что случилось?
Температура подскочила. Говорила я тебе окна не открывать. Да без толку сейчас ругаться. Спасать ее надо.
Oya went into a coughing fit. She had a hard time lifting her eyelids. Her eyelashes were stuck together. Her chest vibrated from hectic breathing. I shook my head, trying to chase away the intrusive whispers, the images of dead, worm-infested monsters dancing in the garage.
А вдруг инфекция?
Dad was gnawing at his nails, anxious.
Принеси сироп.
Уже принес тут на донышке.
He handed over a small bottle. I noticed how Mom held her hand over my dad's for a second. Then gave it a light squeeze and let go. The blizzard outside was growing stronger, but the storm that always raged between my parents had subsided for now. It felt like Oya's illness made them stop and reflect upon their behavior.
Грелка вот.
Не буду. Не возьму. Плохие.
She was delirious. Her pupils rolled back, her speech impaired.
Я знаю, вы под масками страшные.
Her words were akin to a jolt of lightning.
Тише, доченька, перестань. Господи, что же делать?
Dad put his palm on Mom's shoulder.
Прости нас, солнышко.
A tear rolled down Mom's cheek. She sniffled and turned her gaze toward my slouched figure in the doorway.
И ты нас прости, сынок. Мы как с цепи сорвались. Совсем забыли про вас. А вы же самое дорогое, что у нас есть.
Мы запутались, Антон. Не стоило бросать вас без присмотра.
I didn't know what to say. I couldn't even remember the last time my parents spoke to me in this manner, as well as the last time they held hands. Fear had brought them together. But at what price? I thought about the hungry beast from the forest, about the flute and its unceasing call, about the dead creatures jumping over the pines, and about Katya inside the giant meat grinder too.
Вы врачу позвонили?
Позвонили. У него машина в такой мороз не заводится. Я сейчас за ним съезжу.
Mom shook the empty syrup bottle.
А я пока в поселок за лекарствами пойду. Аптека возле школы.
Собирайся, Карина, я тебя довезу. Сейчас главное действовать слаженно, сообща.
I imagined my parents driving through the forest as the thicket lights up with small crimson eyes that looked like generator bulbs. Let me repeat that. I imagined my parents driving through the forest as the thicket lights up with small crimson eyes that look like generator bulbs.
Не ходите!
A scream escaped my throat. Oya shuddered under the blanket and whispered,
Тошенька, спаси меня.
Dad frowned in response.
Антон, мы туда и обратно. Послушай, нам сейчас очень нужна твоя помощь. А помощь заключается в том, чтобы...
Черви под маской.
Что за мультфильмы она смотрела?
В том, чтобы присмотреть за сестрой, пока нас не будет.
Но, пап,
Следи, чтоб ей было тепло.
а вдруг она проснется, а вас нет? Вдруг ей что-то понадобится?
Тише, милый, все будет хорошо.
She showed me a weary smile, that smile of hers I'd never trade for any candy in the world.
Обещаешь?
Я вернусь, чего бы мне это ни стоило. А теперь, пожалуйста, Антон, ты нам очень нужен здесь.
Скорее, Карина, мы теряем время.
After 5 or so minutes, the door downstairs clicked shut, and Dad's car engine revved up among the blizzard's roars.
Под масками темнота.
Oya described images from my dream in her feverish delirium, things she had no way of knowing.
Их не существует.
Мы существуем.
We do. A voice rang out in my head and at the same time streamed from all the nooks and crannies in the house.
Мы придем, как только настанет ночь. Зайчик мясом нам достань. Или мясом сочным стань.
I broke free from the illusion's embrace like it was a spider web. I sprinted out of the room, almost tumbling down the stairs. I wanted to run outside and throw myself on my parents' necks and tell them how much Oya and I loved them. That we'd never fight or argue again. Anything to make them stay with us in this terrifying hour. I swung the door open, but the raging blizzard had already covered the trail of Dad's car. The universe converged into a tiny spot in front of the porch. The house got immediately darker and colder. Something rustled in the attic. Mice? A foxtail? Shadows climbed the walls. Floorboards creaked in empty rooms. Clocks counted down the minutes without mercy. The night was almost upon us. I remembered the instructions from my parents. I needed to look after Oya. To that end, I'll do whatever I can. What if Oya wakes up hungry? Some leftover condensed milk languished in the freezer. I sliced up a loaf of bread into quarters, just like Oya likes it. And then a piercing howl mixed in with the wind's song. Something dark was there, in the blizzard's embrace. Some living being darted around in the snow.
Нет, до ночи еще далеко. Вы обещали дать мне шанс!
A pitiful yapping reached my ears. The snowstorm subsided for a moment, chasing away the swarm of snowy flies, and I recognized a familiar dog in the ball of fur that shivered in front of me. Maybe that was the chance I was looking for.
Жулька!
The stray wagged its tail as if it heard my shout, and rushed toward the front door. It whimpered as it clawed at the wooden planks with its tiny paws, asking me to let it in.
Приветик.
I bent down and rubbed the dog behind its ear. It wagged its tail even faster. The dog. Meat. Food. What if I offer some dog meat to those monsters from the Black Forest? Will they be able to satiate their hunger? Without even thinking of how I killed the poor animal, I started backtracking, whistling. The blizzard whistled in unison with me as if supporting my devilish plan. The shivering stray ran into the hallway. I shut the door as fast as I could, afraid that the dog could smell the danger and try to run away. Happy barks resounded throughout the house.
Тише, дурочка. Олю разбудишь.
No, I can't just gut it in the hallway. The kitchen is a better choice. Zoka tried licking my face when I picked it up, but I dodged.
Ты, наверное, проголодалась, девочка.
No, you're not about to have me kill this fucking dog, dude. I will stop playing this game. I ransacked the freezer, then tore the plastic bag with meat bits open and threw its contents to the dog. It sniffed the frosty bones with caution, then flashed me a suspicious look.
Ешь, давай.
Newspapers with Mom's crosswords acted as a makeshift oilcloth. I spread them around the floor so as not to get the floor dirty. Seems like my dad, who was constantly busy, forgot to sharpen our knives. No, dude! I felt dizzy at the thought that I need to slaughter a writhing Zolka like a pig.
Чем бы тебя таким, чтобы не мучилась?
Someone else smirked inside me.
Ты это... Постой тут. Я за топором схожу и убью тебя, хорошо?
With a look of resignation in its eyes, the dog started its last dinner. My legs gained 10 kilograms each as I shambled toward the attic. No, please do not have us kill a dog. As I peered into the darkness, I was scared that I would come face to face with the goat's maw, feel the stench of his dirty fur and his cold fingers grasping my neck. The attic was empty. The axe lay with its blade toward me, casting a sinister shadow. My fingers locked around the handle.
Помню, собака или сестра. Собака или я сам.
I felt unending hatred toward myself, toward that stupid, totally innocent dog, toward my parents, who had abandoned us and driven away in their car, and toward the beast that had left me no choice. Why would the parents leave their kids in the car at home by themselves, knowing that their kids have not been behaving right, and their daughter suddenly gets sick? So the smartest decision that would have been in this case was for the fucking parents to take the kids with them. So they take the daughter with the mom, drop her off with the fucking doctor, the dad and the son go to the grocery store to pick up some stuff. It doesn't make any sense. I am fucking pissed that it got this twisted. I hated the entire world. With that anger in my heart and my axe at the ready, I entered the kitchen to execute the last part of my plan. Zolka stood on its hind legs while Oya rubbed it at the scruff. My sister leaned against the table to stop herself from falling over. I dropped the tool and rushed toward the exhausted Oya.
Ты зачем встал?
Oh, thank God! I was about to have a fit. Fuck me, dude. I think he's hallucinating again. This doesn't make any sense.
Услышала, как собачка залаяла. Мне уже лучше.
Не обманывай! Скорее иди в кровать!
Правда лучше.
She let go of the tabletop's edge to prove that she wasn't going to fall unconscious on me. Her cheeks reddened. I sighed after touching my sister's cold forehead. I realized that I'd kill anybody to ensure her safety.
А откуда взялась собачка? Она теперь наша?
I stood in front of the axe I dropped, ashamed.
Забежала погреться. Погреется и уйдет. У нее щенки, ей нужно к ним возвращаться.
Мы и щенков можем к себе взять. Будет классно.
Не думаю, что маме понравится эта идея.
А мы ее сильно попросим.
The stray rubbed against Oya's legs.
Да она блохастая. Фу, Жулька!
Ее Жулька зовут? Жулечка, ты теперь наша. Не бойся, маленькая. Тебя у нас никто не обидит.
Oya took a sausage out of the fridge and threw it to the dog. It chomped on the treat with enthusiasm, even though I had already fed an entire portion of beef bones to it.
Я бы на твоем месте все-таки подремал. Скоро папа врача привезет, а мама лекарства.
Я больше не хочу спать. Мне кошмар снился.
She spoke slowly, her eyes downcast.
Да, знаю.
А вот и не знаешь. Ты хоть и был в этом сне, но откуда тебе знать? А я про него рассказывать не буду. Потому что сон был очень плохим. Но теперь...
Oya's face brightened up. Her lips formed a smile.
Теперь у меня есть Жулька, и все будет хорошо. Она залает, если прилетит страшная сова. А мы проснемся и спрячемся. И тогда нас не найдут.
Оль, вряд ли эта шавка нас защитит.
Yet my sister had already made up her mind.
Еще как защитит. Ты же защитишь, правда? Правда, маленькая.
The stray barked in approval.
У меня для тебя кое-что есть. Я сейчас.
Oya ran toward the stairs. I heard them creak.
Осторожнее!
Я скоро. Присмотри за Жулькой.
Shit's about to hit the fan. I stared at the dog, stunned by how lively Oya was now, despite being delirious from a fever just minutes ago. Zolka finished her sausage and switched to licking the floor.
В друзья набиваешься, да?
I was Oya's only friend. I was her savior. I could at least try to save her. But to do that, I picked up the axe from the floor. Zolka, as if sensing something, rushed after Oya, but I stood in the dog's way in front of the staircase.
У нас мало времени. Оля скоро вернется.
I tightened my grip on the axe. It weighed a ton now. The little dog followed all my movements with its eyes.
Не бойся. Я знаю, что все собаки попадают в рай.
Its tail jumped back and forth.
Да не будь же ты такой милой!
Oh no! You put it in my hands! Fuck! You guys are fucked up, bro. Oh my god. I'm gonna spare the dog. God, dude. What am I doing? How will I be different from the sadist from my school if I hurt an innocent dog? Especially when it looks at me with eyes this intelligent.
Не могу.
I dropped the axe, exhausted. Beads of sweat rolled down my body under my clothes, my breathing ragged. It felt like I just ran a 100-meter sprint.
Я не убийца.
Zolka yapped as if agreeing with me.
Я принесла игрушки для собачки.
Oya hopped down the stairs. She was clutching a bright ribbon in one of her hands and a rubber ball in another. I pushed the axe under the phone table with my foot and, with a sad smirk on my face, watched my sister sigh in adoration.
Ты теперь в безопасности.
But what about us? The windows seemed so fragile, their shadows outside, so alive. Oya tied the ribbon around the dog's neck like an improvised collar. Then she made Zolka chase the ball, baring its teeth in a bout of canine happiness, all to Oya's amusement. My sister's laughter was priceless even at a moment like that. It felt like nothing bad had ever happened, and our parents were about to return, and her fever was about to subside. And the black garage never existed.
Почему нельзя превращаться в собак? Или в других зверюшек? Гулять, резвиться.
A foreboding feeling tugged at my heart.
Потому что мы люди.
Скучно.
Oya tapped the floor.
Сидеть.
Zolka yapped in confusion.
Не работать ей в цирке.
Я ее всем командам обучу. Вот увидишь.
Oya yawned and lay on her side. There and then on the floor, the ball rolled away from her, attracting the stupid dog.
Как спать? Хочется.
Her eyelids closed, and she started snoring. I leaned in and touched her forehead. It was hot again.
Сторожи свою хозяйку. Ты ей жизнью обязана.
My command was directed at Zolka. The dog kept sniffing on my pants, oblivious to how close to death it was. I ran to the second floor, brought a blanket and a pillow. Oya should sleep here, under my watch. Who knows what could knock on her bedroom door? Oops. I tucked my sister in. She smacked her lips in her sleep. I rubbed her delicate forearm. Zolka rolled into a ball beside her and started snoring loudly.
Ночь будет долгой.
I shrank after hearing an ear-rending scream in the surrounding darkness. It was the wind, or the agony of hunger. The monstrous music of the hurricane poured into my ears. It consisted of screeching, wailing, and my own quickened heartbeat. Hold on, I gotta adjust my mic. The wind rammed the windows. An open window banged against its frame somewhere above us, as if it were a rabid beast clanging its maw. Had the guests arrived already? Were they walking all over the second floor? Were they running from one corner to the other in the hallway, giggling? I should have fed Zolka to them. They're angry. Their wrath knows no bounds. I squeezed myself into the fridge, expecting the darkness of the doorframe to sink its claws into me at any moment. I waited for toothy animal faces to emerge into the kitchen, their saliva splattering to the floor. I need to calm down. I need to take my meds. I grabbed the package from one of the fridge's shelves, pushed out a pill into my tongue, and washed it down with tap water. Then collected some more water and washed my face. I felt like the blizzard was disappointed by my choice. It wailed and attacked the outer walls of the house even harder. It felt the immense fear of the two small children inside this fragile house. I realized that the shadows were creeping closer to Oya when I wasn't watching them. Fuck. A black lump that crawled from around the corner but melted from a direct look. A fuzzy silhouette under the table. I turned my head like crazy, fending them off. A gut-wrenching squeak rang out as if somebody scraped their claw against the window's glass.
Нет, нет, нет! Вы не настоящие!
But if the shadows weren't real, if there was nobody inside the blizzard, does that mean I'm just insane? I looked at the package in my hand. What did I even take? The kids don't need to read the instructions for medication. They have moms for that. I pierced the tiny font with my eyes. Released fits of uncontrollable anger and anxiety. Helps with behavior abnormalities, manias, destructive behavior. Can cause addiction. Possible side effects include dizziness, heightened motor activity, disruption in thermoregulation, insomnia. In high dosages can cause serious injury or death. I hesitated. Alyssa's smarmy voice floated up in my memory. The pills inhibit me. They lead me away from the snowy path. But maybe I don't need that snowy path after all. It's time to stop. What was the truth? How could I tell it apart from the nasty lies? I'm taking another pill, dude! I took a risk. Things would take a turn for the worse if I couldn't think clearly. The shadows around me gradually stopped acting like sentient beings. The squeaking sounds stopped. There was nothing threatening about the weather. We were inside, after all.
Вы дома?
На улице черти что. Антон, поставь чайник.
Two pairs of shoes were stomping around in the hallway, throwing off snow. My parents appeared in the doorway. Oya shuddered weakly and opened her eyes.
Мамочка, папочка,
Ты чего на полу разлеглась? У тебя же температура.
Dad looked over the mess that was our kitchen, and the longer he looked, the more grim was his expression. Mom scooped up Oya.
Господи, какой горячий лоб. Ничего, потерпи. Мы привезли лекарства. Сейчас станет лучше.
мне снилось, что Антон стал монстром.
Mom scowled at me with an angry stare. Hey, dude, I didn't do shit!
На 5 минут нельзя оставить.
I felt my face grow red.
Все хорошо, маленькая. Я отнесу тебя в постель.
Our eyes met. Oya looked at me with desperation.
Антон, прошу тебя, останься со мной.
Твоему брату нужно убраться.
Fix the mess? How? By going into the darkness? No, idiot. Mom is talking about the kitchen table where you made a mess while making sandwiches with condensed milk. Before letting them carry her away, Oya turned to me and gave me a look full of confusion. I wanted to grab her and hold her to my chest, but Mom carried her out into the corridor. The kitchen felt even nastier without her, and the wind's howls became even louder and more desperate.
Да уж, не радуешь ты нас, Антон.
Я все объясню.
Dad interrupted me with a gesture.
Не сейчас. Я голоден, как волк.
Dad bent down to pick up the axe. Zolka whimpered from under the table.
Час от часу не легче. Где ты его откопал?
Это девочка. Ее зовут...
Dad interrupted me with a gesture.
Так значит, это она устроила тут бардак?
Не совсем, но...
Я не желаю пререкаться. Выгони ее.
No.
Пап!
Тоша,
Тоша.
твоя мама сейчас на взводе. Умоляю, уведи собачонку, пока мама не увидела. Ты ее знаешь, она ни за что не разрешит нам оставить эту моську. По крайней мере, пока Оля больна. А там что-нибудь придумаем.
I replied with a resigned sigh. Dad showed me a sad smile and held out a couple sausages from the fridge to me.
На, покормишь по дороге.
I'm gonna get snatched. I'm gonna get snatched.
Пойдем, Жулька.
I entered the hallway along with a happy dog that was munching on a cold sausage. I honed my hearing to try and listen in on the conversation in Oyo's room, but the rampaging nature silenced the voices. What the? Ah, come on. I keep right-clicking. I threw on my jacket, whistled to the dog, and we went out into the blizzard. The only consolation I had was the fact that Zolka was a stray, so she probably knows how to survive the winter. I fed her the last of my treats and started licking my hands in excitement. The wind pushed me in the back as if escorting me to the stockade of trees. They hunched over in the storm like ugly executioners that were about to kill me for my crime. Gatherings of elms looked like cliffs, and the crevices between them, the winds and the gray ghosts wandered. Those surely were the forest's previous victims. No, it's just snow. But if the glade was so scary, then what's the thicket like? Don't think about it. Do what you must and run back. I walked, swallowed by the snow piles. The closer I got to the pines, the darker my surroundings became. I looked back at the house. The lights inside trembled like candle flames that were about to be put out by the wind. And for some reason, I thought that nobody would come and reignite them.
Беги, Жулька. Здесь тебе не рады.
The dog perked its ears. The bushes rustled, crackling in the cold. The darkness hooted. Branches cracked. Somebody walked around the edge of the forest. Zolka barked a single time. I turned around in panic, but my home was no longer there. The blizzard surrounded me with impenetrable chaos. Whistling echoes among the trunks, snowflakes flying in my face. Crunch, crunch, crunch. A giant meat grinder crunching on bones, That's how the steps that approached me from the darkness sounded. I stepped back. Zolka barked. Dad just probably took pity on the dog and decided to take it back to our warm house.
Pop!
Crunch, crunch. The footsteps stopped mere meters away from me. I strained my vision. There was nobody there. It was just a brush that bent under the gusts of wind. I exhaled in relief. Oh God! And then somebody's arms grabbed me from behind, tore me off the ground, and threw me into the darkness. Oblivion was like a well full of viscous syrup. I was slowly sliding to the bottom of it. It was a somewhat pleasant feeling. I couldn't change anything, so I just relaxed inside the goo, like a diver that lets the current carry them. But even then, I knew that the well wasn't bottomless. I wasn't likely to wake up in my bed, near my anxious parents. First, the pain came. My hands hurt like they were run over by a car. Then dim light squeezed through my fluttering eyelids. I opened my eyes and emerged into a nightmare. Fragments of reality rushed me like a pack of rabid dogs. Rows of shelves, metal walls, the bulb hanging on a wire, the riveted flooring. I woke up inside a garage. Horror gripped me harder than the ropes that circled around my wrists. I thrashed around and moaned. A piece of duct tape stopped me from calling for help. I was hanging in the air, good 2 feet off the dirty flooring. The ropes, fixed on a hook that was drilled into the ceiling, held me in a horizontal position. My feet were raised backwards. My numb fingers clutched and unclutched. The cords ate into my skin. My throat was dry, my tongue was stuck to my palate. This is the end. The beginning of the end, to be precise, because I won't be granted a quick death. The fragments of a scary reality fell into place like the pieces of a puzzle. I tried to calm down and avoid hurting my arms even more. At least the one who captured me went somewhere else. I was the only person in the metal box. Can I maybe free myself? But just after a moment, I was dangling again like a fly inside a spider's web. In place of spanners and winches, pliers, scalpels, and bone saws. All dirty, covered in rust. The floor smeared with red stains. A pile of rags in the corner. When I realized what I was looking at, strength left me. Those were kids' clothing and shoes. The things that belonged to my predecessors. Those who died at the hands of the serial killer inside his lair. I blinked away at my heavy tears. There was something big, covered by a tarp to the right of me. And even more to the left of it sat a kid. They were hunched over near that thing, which is probably the generator that powered the light bulb. I stopped crying and moaned, trying to attract his attention. The kid turned his back to me, his head, his hood. I couldn't see if it was a boy or girl. That kid hugged their knees and swayed back and forth as if in a trance. Their shadows slid across the metal in the silence that was only disturbed by the howling wind outside. What if that's Oya? The thought that my sister also ended up in the black garage scalded my mind. I threw my head back and twisted my wrists, trying to reach the knots with my fingers. My attempts failed, to no one's surprise. I looked at the generator again. The kid was gone, if they were even there in the first place. I turned my head around, looking for the kid. I heard a stifled wheezing coming from under the tarp. Another hallucination? I stared at the source of the barely audible sound. And then the metal prison shell shook so hard that my body was thrown toward the shells as if I was on a swing. Torture tools clanged, light bulbs swayed, a bright spot it produced, squirming in the horrifying floor. The black garage turned into a shadow theater. An earthquake? No more like Baba Yaga's growing chicken legs and going for a walk. The garage was moving. Yes, I was being transported. I could hear the hum of an engine outside through the roaring wind. The light bulb flickered, going out and then turning back on the next instant. What is that? A dog barking? I was thrown toward the generator. The rope slipped from the hook, and I fell on my back, my eyes bulging out of their sockets from the pain. The door flew open, confirming my hunch. The tree trunks flew by in the blizzard. We were moving, probably under tow.
Есть кто живой? Бяшка! Ау!
Ramka, I'm not hallucinating after all. I spun my legs. Ramka jumped into the garage like a passenger who was late for his train. He frowned for a second and rushed toward me, ripping off my gag.
Братуха, цел?
I didn't have a concrete answer to the question.
Сейчас, погоди.
Ramka pulled out his butterfly knife and sliced the ropes. Let's go, boy! I moaned from the pain in my pinched wrist. Ramka held out his hand, and I grabbed it. The floor under us shook like crazy. We had to bounce to avoid sliding toward the walls.
Я смотрю фартовый, ты пацан.
Как ты здесь оказался?
Как в боевике, прикинь. Бяша же пропал. Не ты ко мне нагрянули, я ж его кореш закадычил.
No, not Biasha!
То все, с нами, говорит, поедешь. Они меня в бобик посадили и давай по окрестностям кататься. Считай, повезло. Маньячи на гараж вез. Мы за ними.
Yo, let's go! Shots were fired outside. Dogs barked.
Кто маньяк?
Ramka was about to open his mouth when we heard another wheezing sound from under the tarp.
Бяша!
We rushed toward the sound and pulled on the tarp with 4 hands. My brain almost got fried from what I saw. There was an industrial meat grinder under the tarp. In its bowl that stank of motor oil lay tied up Katya. Her eyes, full of desperation and tears, were directed at us. Katya moaned into the gag.
Мы тебя вытащим! Осторожно, Ром!
Ramka heard me plead, but there was already nothing he could do. The garage shook again, and the delinquent was thrown against the meat grinder's side, breaking the lever under the bowl.
Бля!
The giant machine rumbled like an empty belly. Oh no! No, 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 no! We're not! No! The knives came into motion inside his cast iron mouth. Katya's eyes bulged out even more. I realized that she was sliding into the meat grinder's throat. A couple more seconds and the blade was sliced off her feet. Ramka, still wincing from pain, tried to move what was left of the lever with his bare hands, but it was completely broken. I shoved my hand into the bowl and grabbed Katya by the shoulders. My fingers slipped. The girl's feet touched the blades. The hellish spiral got painted red and Katya's face turned crimson. She was probably about to lose consciousness. I clutched the collar of Katya's coat and pulled the girl toward me as hard as I could. Ramka rushed to help, stopping our classmate from falling into the bowl.
Кто здесь?
Tikhonov stumbled into the garage, completely out of breath. I didn't even notice how the garage stopped. Gunshots continued crackling outside.
Лейтенант, на помощь!
The place where the ghost sat a minute ago caught my attention.
Генератор!
Tikhonov acted without delay. He dashed to the generator while we were holding Katya in place. The policeman turned off the motor in a flash. The giant machine rumbled with its cast iron bowels for one last time and went silent. The blades spun idly for a couple of seconds and stopped. Blood dripped down from them.
Тоха, ты по-братски не говори, что я задел рычаг.
I replied with a curt nod and he relaxed, seemingly believing me.
Спасибо. Ты настоящий друг.
We took Katya out of the meat grinder and she went limp in Tikhonov's hands. She lost consciousness, and that was probably the best outcome for her. The wind whistled into the open door. The sight of my classmate's bloody foot was stomach churning. She was missing a big toe, and the one next to it dangled in the air, still connected to the foot with a tiny patch of skin. No longer will Katya be able to be the fastest girl in our PE class. The thought almost brought me to tears, but I held on.
Нет. Твою мать!
I turned to Ramka. He was holding a sneaker that he excavated from the pile of shoes.
Пяша, братан.
I put my palm on Ramka's shoulder.
Ты уверен? Это его?
Его. А раньше мой был. Я ему свои вещи давал донашивать.
Мне жаль, друг.
Уходим отсюда.
Ramka let go of the sneaker. We went out into the raging snowstorm one after another. Pines loomed over us. They reminded me of hollowed-out bones, with the burial winds howling inside them. Snow piled over the cabin of an overturned tractor. The garage was stuck in a snow pile. A police car was also parked nearby. The flicker of police sirens, the horrifying trees, and the white wasteland. I'll never forget this sight. More shots rang out in the distance. And then an epiphany came. The tractor driver! He transported the garage from one place to another. He was the serial killer.
Доронин и остальные, пошли за похитителем.
Zolka ran up to my legs, wagging her tail.
Героиня наша.
Героиня?
Это она нас на гараж вывела. Получается, твой запах поймал. Пойдешь в милицию служить, нюхач?
Zolka barked in agreement. I rubbed the dog behind its back. The forest became unbearably cold. Tikhonov looked at Katya with fraternal tenderness and then turned towards us.
Аптечка под бардачком. Пацан, Антон, притащи-ка бинты.
Oh, I completed his request in a flash. Tikhonov held Katya's foot. Large red drops fell to the snow. I bandaged Katya's foot, stealing glances at the lieutenant as if to ask him with my facial expression if I was doing everything right.
Теперь узел. Отлично.
A small rime-looking stain soaked through the white threads. It's just red rime doesn't exist. I could barely take my eyes off of it.
Пацаны, побудьте с ней в машине. Я найду Доронина.
Tikhonov carried Katya to the car.
Следи, чтобы у него ноги были выше от земли. А то, не дай бог, от потери крови помрет.
Sorry, I had to take a swig. The policeman said that and left us. Ramka, lost in his own thoughts, sat on the front seat, leaning against the glass with his temple. He wasn't in the mood to talk to me. I sat in the back seat, beside Katya. She looked weak, pale like gypsum, but also somehow breathtakingly beautiful. She didn't look like a sly snake anymore. She was a swan dying in my hands now. When I got warm, I started to come to the realization that I survived. And a chapter of my life that was pure horror was now over. I tore my eyes off the blizzard raging outside and looked down in surprise. Katya's fingers clutched my hand. She looked at me from under her half-closed eyelids.
Это ты? Ты спас меня?
I was about to say that Ramka was with me, and that the police headed by Tikhonov was also nearby. But I remained silent for whatever reason.
Спасибо.
I replied with a tired smile.
Отдыхай. Нам всем нужно отдохнуть.
I turned to the window and continued to enjoy the sensation of Katya's fingers on my hand. The bell rang. Throngs of school kids tumbled out of the classrooms. The wind covered the schoolyard with snow. It thawed on the boots and dirtied the floors inside. It had been 2 weeks since we got out of the serial killer's den. Ramka barely came to school, so I had no chance of talking to him. The last time I saw Katya was when we sat in that police car. Lilia Pavlovna took a leave to care for her daughter, so we had a substitute teacher for now. If Dad didn't talk Mom out of locking me home, I wouldn't be here either. My parents always had their eyes on me since that incident. My classmates looked at me differently too, as if they were looking at an alien from a distant planet. I couldn't gauge who that alien was. That friendly one from a Steven Spielberg movie or the alien. I stood near the window and stared at the white veiled yard. The world shrank to the school and its surroundings, walled off by the swirling darkness. The killer managed to escape. He's still at large. He's probably equipping a new garage, even blacker, even scarier than the previous one.
Привет, мой герой.
Paulina smiled at me, her hands behind her back.
Как же мы давно не общались.
По телефону общались вчера.
Телефон не считается. А вживую не болтали целую вечность. Как поживаешь?
How have I been? Really? I've been a person who witnessed a pair of Katya's toes get sliced off by giant blades.
Все в порядке. Вроде.
Ты изменился. Повзрослел. До сих пор поверить не могу, что наш Петров спас человека из мясорубки.
Мы с Ромкой.
Ромка. Странно, что он никого случайно не убил. С его везением.
Paulina's forehead puckered.
А вот ты совсем другое дело. Рядом с тобой безопасно. Девушки такое чувствуют.
I was so completely at a loss.
Ну, не знаю.
Не скромничай. Хотя ты такой милый, когда краснеешь. Вот бы таких рыцарей, как ты, в мире было больше. Это бы решило многие проблемы, да?
Did she call me a knight? Did she call me a knight? I grunted something unintelligible, my face red as a beet, cursing my shyness in my mind. Paulina sneaked a glance at the window, at the white blankets of snow floating outside. There was an impenetrable wall of darkness past the flower beds.
Думаешь, этот псих еще в поселке?
Think it's your granddad, lady.
Надеюсь, нет. Милиция прочесала все вдоль и поперек.
У меня к тебе просьба, Антон. Дедушка сейчас в больнице.
Что-то серьезное?
В его возрасте все серьезно. Знаешь, мне страшно даже за закрытыми дверями. А на улице, в метели, сегодня по дороге в школу я расплакалась. Глупо, да?
Вовсе не глупо.
I felt like she was never this candid with me. This straightforward attitude fit Paulina well. It adorned her already beautiful face. And her magical eyes, suspicious and trusting at the same time. Anyone would want to become a genuine knight under their watchful gaze.
Ты бы мог проводить меня домой после уроков? Другие мальчики мне предлагали. Но что они сделают, если появится убийца?
I was flattered, but still couldn't help but question myself. What would I do? Whip out an Uzi just like Chuck Norris? Paulina looked at me as she was sure I carried a gun like that in my school bag, and maybe even a multiple of them.
Мы договорились?
I wanted to reply, but then I saw two people near the stairs. Lilia Pavlovna and Katya, walking on crutches. She lost weight, looked frail after weeks of absence. I remembered her tender gaze back when we sat in the police car. That horrible day became just a tad bit brighter thanks to that bonding moment between two people who escaped certain death. The bell rang. I shuddered.
Встретимся после уроков.
We entered the classroom. The rumors of Lilia Pavlovna coming back spread faster than she could get here. The kids were already standing at attention when she came in.
Садитесь. Катюш, дойти сама сможешь?
Смогу, мам.
Katya hobbled away along the desk, and our classmates drilled holes in her with their eyes. They were probably imagining themselves in her place, inside that psycho's garage. Or maybe they wondered how it felt to move around without 2 toes on one of their legs. Katya skipped her usual place as if she forgot where she sat during her sick leave and stopped at my desk. She just stood there, her eyes downcast. I was taken aback. Doubly so because we were being watched by an anxious Paulina, who was half turned towards us.
Подвинешься?
I didn't know what to do. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, as Dad used to say. Paulina squeezed a pencil in her hand. It seemed like it was about to break. That pressure transferred to my spine.
Мне долго ждать?
Что?
Ты тормоз?
She finally looked at me. I didn't miss that thorny stare at all.
К шкафу подвинулся очкарик.
I lost my breath for a moment from anger. 4 eyes? Really? After everything that fucking happened? My cheeks burning, I obeyed her order.
На полу.
On the floor. What?
Что?
What?
На полу грязь.
Я не дежурный сегодня.
Это грязь с твоих копыт. Убрал!
I gulped without looking at my classmates in hopes that they weren't looking at us at that moment. I hope they weren't enjoying this humiliating spectacle.
Хорошо.
With my eyes locked on Katya, I wiped off a small puddle under the desk with the sole of my shoe.
Ты почему стоишь, Кать?
Лилия Павловна, тут Петров насвинячил. Да-да. Вот жду, пока он за собой уберется.
Петров, быстрее, пожалуйста, не задерживай урок.
I felt like my whole head was burning, and the words that left my mouth were little fireballs.
Серьезно? Убери. Это твое спасибо.
Katya's face reddened, but she continued her arrogant staring contest nonetheless. I couldn't stop anymore. I raced down a proverbial hill. I burst out. Or was it the fear that I bottled up in... Was it the... I'm pissed as fuck too. Hold on, let me gather my thoughts. Or was it the fear that I bottled up inside me for a month that burst out? I pushed away the chair beside me, hunched down, and started wiping the floor with the sleeve of my shirt.
Чисто.
Is that good enough?
Может, Ваше Величество, уже сесть.
Katya let out an insolent snort.
Что ж, хорошая работа.
Кстати, сама себя вытаскивай в следующий раз, дура.
Петров!
Lilia Pavlovna's eyes widened. She saw red.
Что ты себе позволяешь? К директору! Быстро!
I jumped up in defiance.
Так-то он прав. Могла бы и поблагодарить. Он ей вообще-то жизнь спас.
The class buzzed in agreement. They were clearly on my side. Before I could let that thought sink in, fate presented me with a new surprise. Katya swayed and reflexively held her to stop her from falling over and then sat her on my chair.
Прости меня, Антон.
Her mask slipped. I saw the Katya that clutched my hand at the back seat of a police car again.
Я злюсь на свою ногу, а не на тебя. Прости. Я и правда...
I mumbled something unintelligible in reply, shook by her sudden confession.
Может, сядешь уже?
Но, Лилия Павловна...
Ладно, садись, Петров. Давайте уже начнем урок.
I took my seat. Katya's gaze was fixed on me. It felt ticklish. I turned around and caught Paulina's stare. She was trying her best to comprehend what was going on between me and Katya. But that was something I couldn't comprehend myself.
Знаешь, в больнице я много думала. Я была несправедлива к людям. А сильнее всего к тебе.
Я уже и забыл.
Ага, забыл. Врун.
She accidentally pushed my black pencil case with a race car on it with her elbow off the desk. I bent to pick it up. For a moment, my gaze froze on Katya's bandaged foot. Then I straightened up. Katya pushed a note toward me. Promise you won't lie anymore. I smiled at her, took my pencil, wrote one more line on the piece of paper. I'll do my best. Katya took out a red pen from her pencil case. She did a meticulous check on all the letters, then squinted cunningly at me and put a B+ under my line.
Да-да, за чистописание. Почерк больно кривоват.
I snorted in reply.
Оценку можно исправить.
I felt Paulina's stare on the back of my head. It felt awkward, anxious, but also pleasant, a whole storm of emotions.
Допустим, я хочу 5.
Тогда разрешаю проводить меня после уроков. То есть нет.
She flashed me a guilty smile, chasing away the shadow of her former self.
Я очень прошу тебя меня проводить.
I don't want this to be a dating sim. I wanted a mystery, bro. No, I'm complaining about it. That was something I had to dwell on for a moment. 2 of the prettiest girls in the class both asking me to walk them home. Am I being delusional? Should I take my meds? I opened my mouth, but then noticed a child, clearly younger than us, sitting at Ramka and Biash's desk, a hood that covered their entire face. Horror flooded the empty space inside my soul. My throat squeezed shut, depriving me of oxygen. I'd seen that silhouette before, in the serial killer's garage, beside the generator. My jaw slacked even harder.
Кать!
Да?
I tore my eyes off the strange silhouette, put my hand in my pocket and pushed out a pill into my hand from the package. Then immediately chewed it.
Кать, порто Ромы.
I looked back at the child, but they were gone. Just 2 empty chairs and a desk, heavily cut by a pocket knife.
И что с ней не так?
Is there anything wrong with me?
Ничего, забудь.
Простите, что прерываю.
Lieutenant Tikhonov entered the classroom and took off his hat.
Ну что вы, всегда вам рады.
Меня интересуют ученики по имени Петров и Пятифанов.
Пятифанов, насколько я понимаю, болеет. А Петров вон, мозолит глаза.
Tikhonov found me with his eyes before clearing his throat. He then took a diploma out of his folder and started reading.
За храбрость, неравнодушие и мужество, проявленное при спасении жизни.
Ну встань же, тебе говорят.
I followed her order, hypnotized by the diploma's official wording.
Администрация поселка и уполномоченные области по правам детей выносят благодарность.
Аплодисменты!
The class broke out into a roaring applause. Katya beamed with joy. Paulina looked at me with glittering eyes, smiling.
Наш Петров! Ура!
Lilia Pavlovna pulled up her glasses and put her handkerchief to her eyes.
Стыдно, товарищи. Я-то думала, Катеньке померещилось все в бреду. А оказывается, правда? Петров, значит, моего ребенка спас, а я ему к директору.
Отставить к директору на доску почета. Вот это я понимаю.
At that moment, I imagined my photo, but it wasn't hanging in the Hall of Fame, but on a notice board neighboring all the other missing kids. That image sullied my otherwise perfect triumph. I helped Katya go down the stairs after class. I carried her crutches and held her by the elbow. I walked out to the schoolyard together.
Знаешь, что самое странное? Я до сих пор чувствую пальцы.
Phantom pain.
Их нет, но я их чувствую.
Был бы я порасторопнее.
Брось, даже Супермен бы не справился. Тихонов сказал, я легко отделалась. И он прав.
С выздоровлением, Кать.
Paulina walked out from around the corner, her stare directed at Katya. She endured her classmates' scorching gaze with pride.
Спасибо, Полин. И тебе, и твоему парню. Он тоже молодец.
It felt like Katya wanted to once again remind me what kind of relationship Romka and Paulina had.
Если ты о Пятифанове, то между нами ничего нет. Он определенно молодец, но... Вы куда-то собираетесь?
Katya didn't let me reply.
Я до сих пор хромаю. Вот, уговорила нашего героя проводить меня.
Shit.
Да-да-да.
This was so awkward.
Полин,
Я же не идиотка. Все понимаю.
Sadness splashed in Paulina's eyes for a moment, but she smiled as if accepting her fate.
Ты джентльмен. Как говорит дедушка, вымирающий вид. Не каждый повезет.
The blizzard was covering the schoolyard with snow. Paulina turned around and stared anxiously at the darkness, completely lost.
Задолбала строить из себя жертву.
The last line, said in a whisper, was only meant for my ears.
Такое чувство, что она мечтала бы поменяться со мной местами, лишь бы все ее жалели.
Something rustled in the darkness and Zolka ran out of the schoolyard.
Ой, песик!
Zolka noticed Paulina and growled, ever so slightly. Paulina blinked. 2 tears ran down her cheeks and froze, glistening in the forest.
Ты тоже не хочешь меня проводить?
Zolka barked in reply. Well, last time we checked, your grandpa was staring at us while we were kissing, so I'm not going to go down that road.
Ну что, идем? Пусть эта квашня сама до дома добирается, пока не стемнело.
It. I'm gonna save it here. I don't know. We're gonna leave that here because it's just confusing how everything just turned out. Like I'm actually crazy. Like I weighed those options, but I was hoping for more like mystical horror to go around, but it's just fucking crazy. So I hope you guys like this portion of the episode. It has been an hour and 36 freaking minutes. Yeah. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next episode. I guess it's gonna be part 8. I don't know if I'm at the end yet. I don't know. But yeah, please hit a like. Yeah, whatever. God dang it, dude. Where's your mom at? Where's your mom at? Oh, they moved. How interesting. God. Later.